you're all right.
Second time.
What are the things that identify that you're maybe not working with a professional when you're buying and selling a house? There's a lot of really great lenders out there, but there's also a lot of really poor ones. And here's 5 ways that you can identify with if you're maybe working with somebody that's less than professional, okay? Number 1, failure to perform a rigorous pre-approval. Now, what do I mean by rigor? I mean that they're actually pulling a credit check for you. They are asking for banking statements. They're asking for your tax information so they can really get factual information about where you are at financially so they can make an educated opinion about how much money they'd like to lend you. Number 2, losing documents. The lender asks you for some sort of document, you swear you send it to them or you actually send it to them in email, and then a week later they come back asking you for the same document. Professional lenders don't have this occur. This is a bad mark for them if this occurs where they lose a piece of paperwork. They should have a system to capture that document from the client and make sure it's in system and not getting lost, potentially causing a problem with your real estate transaction. Number 3, this is a big one. Things come up over the course of real estate transactions, and when lenders fail to communicate about a problem with the financing to the parties involved, that cuts off any chance of being able to work a resolution for that problem. It's very important that when problems arise, the lender is very communicative, not only with the the person that is getting the loan, the purchaser, but also with the agent that's representing the purchaser in that transaction. Number 4, lenders are not required to understand how real estate contracts work. You know, they operate all over the nation, contracts can change, so it's not really, it's kind of something that's on the back burner, but it's still vitally important that they are at least able to recognize the terms of the contract that are important, like getting an appraisal back before the deadline of the appraisal, or getting the financing cleared before the end of the financing contingency period. If they're not doing that, then they're doing a disservice to the buyer that they are trying to get the loan for. And number 5 works very closely on that. Failure to work on a deadline. Financing contingency is a deadline, appraisal contingency is a deadline, and the closing is a deadline. And when the lender fails to adhere to those deadlines, it puts the borrower's earnest money in jeopardy every time that occurs. What are characteristics that show a real estate agent is not being a professional? Number 1, failure to communicate with all parties. This is just, if you're working with a real estate agent, they need to be an expert in communication with the agent on the other side of the table, the lender on their side of the table, or the lender on the other side of the table. Homeowners, sellers, buyers, they need to know how to listen to what people say and then re-communicate that information to parties that are relevant to that particular situation. I cannot stress that enough. If you have somebody that seems like they don't have clear, effective communication skills, that's something that they need to practice more. Number 2, failure to prepare paperwork. This is a widespread problem with agents in the marketplace not knowing how to prepare documents like offers on properties, making sure everything's signed correctly, all the documents are clear and legible to read, making sure that the information is, the disclosures on the seller side have been created and prepared for the listing. And when that's lacking, then you have a lack of professionalism. Number 3, they talk too much. And when I say talk too much, I tend to mean that they over-disclose information about their clients. If I'm a buyer's agent and I'm calling in on a listing, And the listing agent starts to tell me stories about how the seller is selling their property because it's a ugly divorce and they got to get out of the property quick. They're not doing a service to their clients. They're telling me the motivations for their clients moving out of the property and how desperate they are to sell the property. And that probably means that I'm going to come in with a lower offer than I would have otherwise. Moral of the story, loose lips sink ships. Number 4, agents that are pushy with buyers. Agents that they put their need to get somebody under contract because they want that commission check so badly that they are trying to talk and be pushy with their buyers and their clients to get them to do what the agent wants, not necessarily what the client wants. Because I recognize that what is good for me because of financial situations and family and community situations may not be good for somebody else. And then number 5, this is a huge breach of professionalism, is when agents decide that they are going to show a piece of property without asking permission. Agents should never assume that they have the right or the ability to walk into somebody else's house. Worst case scenario, let's say that it's a vacant house, but the owners are still keeping their animals there. Agent opens the door, dog runs out the front door, gets hit by a car. How do you resolve that? That's why you always ask. Keep yourself clean. And the attorney's very important to be working with a professional. It could harm you if you're not on both sides of the transaction. The first one, ordering title, making sure that they order that with enough time to be able to get that processed so it can be done for closing is very important. Number 2 kind of goes hand in hand with that, and that's ordering documents from HOAs. The attorney has to check down to make sure that all the fees and dues for the HOA for the property has been paid for, and sometimes that takes time to process. And if you're finding out that that information has not been ordered and you're like a day away from closing, then you've got a problem, and you're probably going to have to extend closing, which puts, as a buyer, your earnest money in jeopardy. If you're a seller and you're trying to close on your next property, that could put your next sale in jeopardy by having to throw that out too. It becomes a chain reaction. It's not just, it's just you want to make sure that you're working with people that get things done on time. Number 3, attorneys that have massive amounts of clerical errors, misspelled names, stuff showing up wrong on the disclosures that get sent out from the attorneys as far as what money is going where. Number 4 is attorneys that are weirdly uncooperative or not communicative. You want to be able to work with an attorney because at the end of the day, they're kind of like the mediator for the transaction. And you want somebody that is accessible, that is able to answer questions, because they are making sure that everything is supposed to be happening in accordance with the laws of the land. When you start talking with an attorney and they're weirdly, not communicative, that could be a red flag. Number 5 is a big one. Attorneys overbooking closings. Now, attorneys are closing maybe properties to the tune of 15, 20 properties a week, maybe 30, 50 properties a week for a larger firm. When we go under contract, we all get together, the buyer and the seller, and we work with the attorney to establish a time and a location for the closing. And there is nothing more annoying than when the attorney comes back and says, oops, we overbooked, so we've got to push people around. You work on a calendar. This should have never occurred. And phooey on you for not doing it right the first time. I hope this video is useful to you. And if you would like to review this later, please remember that you can find all of my videos archived on my YouTube channel, Casey Sears Real Estate. Wish you the best. Talk to you soon. Bye.